My name is Michael James Carter. I am 17 years old, and on Sunday morning, November 5th, 2023, I died on the hardwood floor of Grace Fellowship Church in Millbrook, Texas, with 3 bullets in my body and the sound of children screaming all around me. For 7 minutes and 38 seconds, I was clinically dead. My heart stopped. My brain shut down. According to every medical definition, I was gone. But death, as it turns out, isn't what we think it is. Not even close. I know because I was there. I saw both sides, the light and the darkness. And what I witnessed during those 7 minutes is why I had to come back, why I couldn't stay in that perfect peace, and why I'm telling you this story now. You need to understand something before I continue. I'm not some super religious kid. I mean, yeah, we go to church every Sunday, but I'm just a normal teenager. I play basketball for Millbrook High. I stress about my sats. I stay up too late, scrolling through Instagram. I'm telling you this because I need you to know I'm not crazy. I'm not making this up for attention. What happened to me was real, and it changed everything I thought I knew about life, death, and what comes after. So let me take you back to that morning, November 5th, 2023. It was one of those perfect Texas fall mornings. You know, the kind where the air is crisp, but the sun is still warm. I woke up around 8:30, which for a Sunday was actually pretty early for me. The night before, I'd been up until like 2 a.m. playing Call of Duty with my friends, Jake and Tommy. We were on this crazy winning streak. And you know how it is. You keep saying just one more game until suddenly it's the middle of the night. My mom was already up, obviously. She's always the first one awake in our house. I could smell breakfast cooking, scrambled eggs, bacon, and her homemade biscuits. My mom makes the best biscuits in all of Texas. I swear. They're fluffy and buttery and just melt in your mouth. It's like the one thing she makes from scratch anymore since she started working full-time at the hospital. She's a nurse. Been one for 20 years. My dad jokes that she could make those biscuits in her sleep. And honestly, he might be right. I dragged myself out of bed and headed downstairs. My little sister Sarah was already at the kitchen table, still in her pajamas, these ridiculous unicorn ones she's obsessed with. She's 12, right at that age where she's trying to act all grown up but still sleeps with her stuffed animals. She was on her phone, probably watching TikTok videos or texting her friends about whatever drama was happening in 7th grade that week. Finally, she said when she saw me, "Mom said we couldn't eat until you got up." "That's not what I said," Mom called from the stove. "I said we'd eat together as a family." My dad was in the living room, watching the news and drinking his coffee. Black coffee, always black. He says real men don't need cream and sugar. I tried it once and almost threw up. Tasted like burnt dirt, but that's my dad. 40, a former Marine, works construction. The kind of guy who thinks showing emotion is a sign of weakness. Don't get me wrong, he's a good dad. He shows up to all my games, taught me how to throw a football, how to change a tire. He just shows love differently than Mom does. "Michael, hurry up and eat," Mom said, putting a plate in front of me. "Service starts at 10:30 and you still need a shower. Do I have to go?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Yes, both my parents said at the same time. Look, it's not that I hate church or anything. Grace Fellowship is actually pretty cool as churches go. Pastor David is young, like maybe 35, and he actually gets teenagers. He plays guitar, references Marvel movies in his sermons, sometimes doesn't act like having fun is a sin. The youth group is decent too. My girlfriend Emma goes there. Well, she's not officially my girlfriend yet, but we've been talking, you know. That whole complicated thing where you're more than friends but haven't had the DTR talk yet. But that morning, I just wanted to sleep. I was exhausted from staying up late, and honestly, sometimes Sunday feels like the only day I can just chill. Between school, basketball, practice, and my part-time job at the grocery store, I'm constantly running around. Sunday mornings feel sacred in a different way. They're my time to just exist without anyone expecting anything from me. But in my house, Sunday church isn't optional. It's like this unspoken rule that's actually very much spoken. Carter family goes to church. Period. End of discussion. So I scuffed on my breakfast, took the world's quickest shower, and threw on my church clothes, khakis, and a button-down shirt that was probably a little wrinkled, but hopefully not enough for Mom to make me change. By 10:15, we were piling into Dad's truck, heading to church. Grace Fellowship Church sits right in the middle of downtown Millbrook, this beautiful old brick building that's been there since like the 1950s. It's not huge, maybe holds 400 people max, but it's got this warmth to it, you know? Stained glass windows that throw rainbow colors across the pews when the sun hits them just right. Dark wooden beams across the ceiling. The kind of place that feels holy even when it's empty. We always sit in the same spot, 5th row from the front, left side, right on the aisle. It's been our spot for as long as I can remember. The Henderson family sits in front of us, the Johnsons behind us. Mrs. Henderson always has these super strong perfume that makes me sneeze. And Mr. Johnson falls asleep during the sermon literally every week. His wife has to elbow him when he starts snoring. That morning felt normal at first. We sang the usual songs, contemporary worship stuff, not the old hymns my grandma prefers. I was standing between Mom and Sarah, trying to look like I was paying attention, while actually thinking about the history test I had on Monday that I hadn't studied for yet. Emma was 3 rows up with her family, and she turned around once and smiled at me. It made my stomach do this weird flip thing it does whenever she looks at me. Pastor David started his sermon around 10:45. He was talking about faith during dark time, about how God is still present even when we can't see him, even when everything seems hopeless. He referenced the story of Job, talking about how sometimes bad things happen to good people and we don't understand why, but faith means trusting even in the darkness. I remember checking my phone at 10:52 a.m. I had it on silent, hidden behind my Bible, just quickly checking to see if Jake had texted about basketball practice that afternoon. Mom shot me that look, the one to put that away right now, or your grounded look. I slipped it back in my pocket. At 10:54 a.m., everything changed. The main doors of the church, these big, heavy wooden doors that usually creak when they open. They didn't creak this time. They exploded open, slamming against the walls so hard that everyone jumped and turned around. A guy walked in, young, maybe 22 or 23, white male, average height, wearing all black jeans. Black hoodie with the hood up, black boots. But it was his eyes that made my blood turn to ice. They were empty. Completely, utterly empty. Like looking into the eyes of a doll or a mannequin. There was nothing human in them anymore. And he was carrying a rifle. For a split second, nobody moved. It was like our brains couldn't process what we were seeing. This was Millbrook, Texas, population 15,000. This was Sunday morning church. This stuff doesn't happen here. It happens on the news, in other places, to other people, not here, not to us. Then he raised the rifle and fired into the ceiling. The sound was deafening. Plaster rained down like snow. And then the screaming started. People dove under pews. Parents threw themselves over their children. There was this instant chaos, but also these weird moments of clarity I'll never forget. Like Mr. Johnson, who'd been asleep 30 seconds ago, suddenly wide awake and pulling his wife to the floor. Like Mrs. Henderson's purse spilling everywhere, her lipstick rolling past my feet. Like the way the stained glass windows still threw those rainbow colors across everything. Beautiful and terrible at the same time. The shooter started walking down the center aisle, slowly, methodically, not running, not yelling, just walking. Like he had all the time in the world. The rifle swept back and forth, and people scrambled to get out of his way. But the kids section, oh God, the kids section, it was up front to the right of the altar, a little area where the younger kids sat during children's church. That morning, there were maybe 12 kids there, including Sarah, my sister Sarah, who had volunteered to help with the little kids because she wanted to earn community service hours for school. They were exposed, completely exposed. No pews to hide behind, no adults close enough to shield them, just 12 kids frozen in terror and a gunman walking straight toward them. I need you to understand something. I'm not a hero. I'm not particularly brave. In fact, I'm kind of a coward about a lot of things. I won't even kill spiders. I'll make Sarah do it. I've never been in a real fight. The sight of blood makes me queasy. But in that moment, seeing those kids, seeing my sister, seeing the shooter raising his rifle toward them, I didn't think, I just moved. My body launched itself from the pew before my brain could tell it what a monumentally stupid idea this was. I heard my mom scream, "Michael." No, I heard my dad yelling something, but it was all background noise. All I could see was the distance between me and the shooter, maybe 40 feet. All I could think was that I had to close that distance before he could fire at those kids. I ran straight at him. No zigzagging, no strategy, just a straight line. 40 feet, 30 feet, 20 feet. He saw me coming, turned their rifle toward me. I saw his finger move to the trigger. The time did this weird thing where it slowed down and sped up simultaneously. I could see everything in hyperfocus. The brand name on his boots, a scar on his left hand, a tear rolling down his cheek. Yes, he was crying. This stone-cold killer was crying as he pointed a rifle at my chest. 10 feet. The first bullet hit me in the shoulder. Left shoulder right where it meets the chest. It felt like someone had swung a baseball bat, made a fire directly into my body. The force spun me halfway around, but somehow my legs kept going. 5 feet. The second bullet caught me in the chest, right side, between 2 ribs. I felt the rib crack. Felt something hot and wet spreading across my shirt. My mom's voice screaming. Sarah's voice, screaming. Everyone screaming. 3 feet. The third bullet hit me in the stomach, just below my belly button. That's the one that stopped me. My legs just gave out like someone had cut the strings on a marionette. I collapsed maybe 3 feet from him, close enough to see the individual tears on his face, close enough to smell the gunpowder, close enough to see that his eyes weren't empty after all. They were full of pain, full of rage, full of something dark that wasn't entirely him. As I fell, our eyes met, and in that split second, I saw him. Not the shooter, but the person trapped inside. Terrified, horrified by what he was doing, but unable to stop, like someone else was pulling his strings. Then darkness. Complete, absolute darkness. But here's the thing about dying. It's not like falling asleep. You don't just fade out. There's this moment, this crystalline moment of absolute clarity where, with complete certainty that you're dying, you feel your heart stutter and stop. You feel your lungs take their last breath. You feel the lights going out, one by one, like someone walking through a house, turning off switches. And then, I wasn't in my body anymore. I was above it, looking down at the scene below. And I could see everything. Not just what was in my line of sight, but the entire church, all at once, from every angle simultaneously. I know that doesn't make sense, but nothing about dying makes sense when you're limited to human words and concepts. I saw my body on the floor, blood spreading in an expanding pool, so much blood. More than seems possible for one person to hold. My mom had broken free from my dad's grip and was running toward me, her face a mask of absolute terror. My dad was right behind her, his Marine training kicking in as he moved in that efficient, purposeful way he has when things get serious. I saw Pastor David vaulting over the altar, heading for me, already pulling off his suit jacket to use as a pressure bandage. I saw Emma in her pew, hands over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. I saw Sarah, my little sister Sarah, trying to break free from a youth leader who was holding her back, screaming my name over and over, and I saw the shooter drop the rifle, let it fall from his hands like it had suddenly become too heavy to hold. He fell to his knees right there, 3 feet from my body, reached into his waistband, pulled out a pistol. No, I tried to scream, but I had no voice. Don't do it. It's not you. Fight it. He put the gun to his temple. His lips moved, and somehow, even though I shouldn't have been able to hear from where I was, I heard what he said. I'm sorry, God. I'm so sorry. I couldn't stop it. Then he pulled the trigger. 2 bodies on the church floor now. Mine and his. Blood mixing together on the old wooden boards that generations of believers had walked across. The screaming reached a crescendo, and then ... silence. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of something greater than sound. A silence so complete, so perfect, that it felt alive, like the universe itself had paused to take a breath. And I was moving, not walking or floating, but ... transitioning. The church below me became transparent, like looking through colored glass. Then it faded entirely, and I was somewhere else. The first thing I noticed was the absence of pain. You don't realize how much background pain you carry around until it's gone. Not just the gunshot wounds, but everything. The slight headache I'd had from staying up too late. The sore muscles from basketball practice. The weird ache in my lower back from my growth spurt. All of it gone. I felt more alive than I'd ever felt while actually being alive, if that makes any sense. The second thing I noticed was the light. Oh man, the light. Imagine the most beautiful sunset you've ever seen. Multiply it by 1,000 and you're not even close. This wasn't light that illuminated things. This was light that was things. Light that had substance, weight, presence. Light that knew me, had always known me, had been waiting for me since before I was born. I was in a place, but place isn't the right word. I was in a state of being, maybe. There was ground beneath my feet that felt solid, but looked like crystallized starlight. There was sky above me that moved and breathed like it was alive. Colors that don't exist on Earth that our eyes literally can't perceive. I was seeing with more than eyes now, perceiving with more than just my 5 senses. And he was there. Jesus, look, I know how this sounds. I know people are going to say I was hallucinating, that it was oxygen deprivation, that my dying brain was creating comforting illusions. I've heard all the arguments. I've read the articles about near-death experiences being nothing more than neurons firing randomly. I get it. I probably would have thought the same thing before it happened to me, but I know what I saw. I know who I met. And it was as real as anything I've ever experienced. More real, actually. Like everything I'd experienced before was just shadows on a cave wall. And this was the first time I was seeing actual reality. He didn't look like the paintings. Not exactly. Yes, he had the long hair and the beard, but his features kept shifting, like he was every ethnicity at once, all ages at once, familiar and foreign simultaneously. But his eyes were constant. They held everything, every sunrise, every sunset, every first breath, every last breath, every moment of joy, every moment of sorrow. When he looked at me, I felt seen in a way I'd never been seen before. Completely known, inside and out, all my secrets laid bare, all my shame exposed, and yet ... loved, completely, unconditionally, fiercely loved. "Michael," he said. And when he said my name, it wasn't just sound. It was identity. It was purpose. It was like hearing my real name for the first time, the name that had been written in eternity before the foundation of the world. I fell to my knees. Not out of fear or command, but because standing suddenly seemed presumptuous. How do you stand in the presence of love itself? "Lord," I started, but he was already reaching down, pulling me to my feet with hands that had scars in the wrist. His touch was electric and soothing at the same time, like being struck by lightning and wrapped in a blanket simultaneously. "You've protected the innocent," he said. "You did what love does. You laid down your life for others. Well done, good and faithful servant." The approval in his voice broke something inside me. I started crying, but they weren't sad tears. They were tears of release, of recognition, of coming home after being lost for so long you'd forgotten you were lost. "Am I dead?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "Your body is dead," he said. "But you, the real you, the eternal you, you're more alive than you've ever been." I looked around at this impossible, beautiful place. "Is this heaven?" "This is the threshold," he said. "The doorway between worlds. Hevanis, Hevanis." He gestured behind him, and I saw gates made of pearl, not pearls, but single, massive pearls carved into gates, and beyond them, a city that defied description. Light and music and joy radiated from it like heat from a forge. "I want to stay," I said. The words came out before I could stop them. "Please, I want to stay here with you." His expression changed then, became serious, almost urgent. "There are things you need to see first, Michael. Things you need to understand. Look." He waved his hand, and suddenly we were somewhere else. The same church, but not the same. We were seeing it from a different perspective, a spiritual perspective. I could see the souls of everyone in that room, their spiritual states visible like auras or energy fields. Most people glowed with various intensities of light, some bright, some dim, some flickering. But there were dark spots too, shadows that moved independent of their sources. And the shooter's soul was there, separated from his body just like mine was. But while I was surrounded by light, he was surrounded by dark. Not the absence of light, the active presence of darkness. It moved around him like living smoke, pulling at him, claiming him. "Ryan," Jesus said, and his voice was full of sorrow. His name was Ryan Morrison. Watch. The scene shifted, and I was seeing Ryan's life. A normal kid, actually. Grew up, middle class, parents divorced when he was 8, struggled in school, not because he was dumb, but because he was angry. So angry at his parents, at God, at himself. I saw him in high school, getting into fights, saw him drop out, saw him discover online forums full of hate, places where his anger was validated, encouraged, weaponized. Saw him meet a girl at 20 Genefa who went to our church, saw them date for 6 months, saw her try to bring him to faith, to heal his anger with love, saw her leave him when the anger became abuse. Not physical, but emotional, verbal. Saw her find someone else at church, someone who treated her with kindness. And I saw the darkness notice him then, really notice him. Saw it begin to whisper to him, feed his rage, twist his thoughts. Every choice he made to embrace the anger, to reject forgiveness, to choose hate over healing, each choice opened him wider to the darkness. He had free will, Jesus said, always right up until the end. But choice by choice, he gave that will over to something else. By the time he walked into that church, Ryan was barely there anymore. Something else was wearing him like a suit. But why? I asked, why did you let this happen? The same free will that allows humans to choose love allows them to choose hate. The same freedom that creates saints creates monsters. I don't override free will, Michael. To do so would be to make you all puppets, and love from a puppet means nothing. We watched as Ryan's soul was pulled away, drawn into a darkness that seemed to go down forever. He was screaming, but there was no sound. They held Ryan, the one who had cried as he shot me, was trying to claw his way back toward the light, but the darkness had claimed him. He had chosen it, fed it, invited it in, and now it owned him. Is he in hell? I asked. He's in the absence of me, Jesus said, which is what hell is. Not a place I send people, but a choice people make. A choice to exist apart from love, apart from light, apart from me, and existence apart from the source of existence itself is torment. Can't you save him? I tried. Every day of his life, I tried. I sent people to love him. I sent opportunities for healing. I sent whispers of hope and moments of clarity, but love cannot force itself on someone. It can only invite and wait. The scene changed again. Now, I was seeing not just our church, but churches everywhere. Hundreds of them. Thousands. And so many were empty. Doors locked. Parking lots vacant. Signs out front saying services online only. This is what's coming. Jesus said, more violence, more shootings, more fear. And look what fear is doing to my people. I saw families huddled in their homes, watching church services on screens, afraid to gather. I saw children growing up without church community, without mentors in faith, without the passing of wisdom from generation to generation. I saw isolation breeding more isolation, fear breeding more fear. But perfect love casts out fear, I said, remembering the verse. Yes, he said, turning to me with eyes that blazed with hope, which is why you're going back. What? The word exploded out of me. No, please, no. I want to stay here. It hurts down there. Everything hurts. And it's so hard, and I'm so tired, and I just want to rest. I know, he said, and put his hand on my shoulder, where he touched me. Warmth spread like liquid gold. But your mother's prayers have weight here, Michael. She's prayed for you every single day since the moment she knew she was pregnant with you. Thousands upon thousands of prayers, stored up like treasure in heaven. Those prayers have authority. He showed me then what would happen if I stayed versus if I went back. If I stayed, I saw my mother collapse at my funeral, saw her faith shatter, saw her stop eating, stop sleeping, stop living. Within 6 months, she would follow me. My father would blame himself for not protecting me, would start drinking to numb the pain. Sarah would rebel hard. Drugs, older boys, anything to fill the hole my death left. The church would close within a year, the congregation too traumatized to continue gathering in a place where such violence had occurred. But if I went back, I saw my mother's joy when I opened my eyes, saw my father cry for the first time in my life, saw Sarah grow up to become a counselor, specifically to help survivors of violence. Saw the church not only survive, but thrive, becoming a beacon of hope, proof that love is stronger than fear. Saw myself telling this story over and over, and each time someone choosing faith over fear, choosing to gather despite the risk. You're sending me back, I said. It wasn't a question. I'm giving you a choice, he said. The same choice I give everyone. But know this, if you go back with a mission. You go back to tell them what you've seen, to tell them not to be afraid, to tell them that death is not the end, that I am hell, that love wins in the end. What if they don't believe me? Some won't. They'll say you hallucinated. They'll say it was oxygen deprivation or dying neurons or wishful thinking. Let them. Seeds don't argue with soil about whether they're seeds. They just grow. Plant the truth. Michael, I'll tend the garden. How much time do we have? Before more violence, before things get worse, there's still time to choose, but not forever. The harvest is coming. The wedding feast is being prepared. The door is open now, but it won't stay open indefinitely. He touched my chest where the bullets had struck. Fire spread through me, but not burning fire. Healing fire, restoration fire, resurrection fire. Tell them about Ryan, he said. Tell them that unforgiveness is a doorway. Anger is an invitation. Hatred is a welcome mat for darkness. But love is a fortress. Grace is armor. Forgiveness is a weapon that darkness cannot stand against. Tell parents to guard their children's hearts. Not just their phones or their internet history, their hearts. Check in with them. Ask them what makes them angry. Ask them if they feel alone. Create communities of belonging before the darkness offers its counterfeit. Tell my people not to abandon gathering together. The enemy feeds on isolation. He cannot penetrate unity. Where 2 or 3 gather in my name, I am there. I am there, Michael. My presence is real. My protection is real, but my people have to choose to trust it. And tell them this, I catch everyone who reaches for me. Everyone. Even in their last millisecond. If they genuinely reach, I catch. Ryan had that chance. In the space between pulling the trigger and the bullet reaching his brain, he had eternity to choose. He chose to reach for me, and I caught him. Wait, what? I was confused, but I saw him pulled into darkness. You saw what he chose for most of his life, but in his final moment, he reached. It was barely a flicker, barely a whisper of repentance, but it was real. And I honor every real reach, no matter how small, no matter how late. This changed everything I thought I had seen. So he's not in hell, he's in a place of healing. a place of restoration. It's painful, the burning away of all that darkness he let in, but it's not eternal torment. It's surgical. It's necessary. It's love in its severest mercy. My head was spinning. This was so much more complex than the simple heaven or hell binary I'd been taught. The truth is always more beautiful and terrible than humans imagine, he said, reading my thoughts. Now, are you ready to go back? I looked at the gates of pearl behind him, at the city of light beyond. Everything in me wanted to walk through those gates. But I thought of Mom, of Dad, of Sarah, of Emma, of all the people who needed to hear that death isn't the end, that love is stronger than fear. I'll go back, I said. He smiled, and his smile was sunrise and spring, and every good thing that ever was, or will be. Tell them I love them, he said. Tell them I see every tear. I hear every prayer. I'm working all things together for good, even the horrible things, especially the horrible things. Tell them the story isn't over. Tell them I'm coming back to make all things new. Then he breathed on me. The journey back to my body was nothing like the journey away from it. Leaving had been gentle, like stepping out of clothes. Returning was violent, like being shot out of a cannon into a wall of broken glass. Every nerve ending exploded with pain. My chest felt like it was being crushed by 1,000 pounds. My lungs burned like I was breathing fire. The bullet's wounds, which hadn't hurt at all when I was dying, now screamed with agony. We've got him. We've got a pulse. Voices, shouting, machines beeping frantically. Someone was pushing on my chest, CPR, breaking my ribs to save my life. Each compression was agony, but it was beautiful agony because it meant I was alive. Michael, stay with us. My mom's voice. I tried to open my eyes, but they felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds each. I tried to speak, but there was something down my throat. A tube, ventilator. He's stabilizing. Get him ready for transport, paramedics. The church ceiling moving above me as they wheeled me out. Glimpses of faces, Pastor David covered in my blood, Emma sobbing, my dad holding Sarah back. And on the floor, a sheet covering Ryan's body. 2 pools of blood, mine and his, mingling together on the old wooden floors. The next few hours were a blur of surgery, machines, and pain medication. I died twice more on the operating table, they told me later. Flatlined for 90 seconds the first time, 45 seconds the second time. But I didn't go back to that place of light. I stayed somehow tethered to my body, watching them work on me, willing my heart to keep beating. 3 bullets. The shoulder wound had missed the major arteries by millimeters. The chest wound had cracked a rib, but miraculously avoided my lung. The stomach wound, that was the bad one. Perforated intesto, internal bleeding, damage to my liver. I should have bled out in under 3 minutes, the doctor said. Instead, I lasted over 7 minutes, long enough for the paramedics to arrive, long enough to get me to the hospital. It's a miracle, Dr. Martinez told my parents. I've been a trauma surgeon for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like this. By all medical logic, your son should be dead. I woke up properly 2 days later. The first thing I saw was my mom's face. She looked like she'd aged 10 years in 2 days. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying. Her usually perfect hair was a mess, and she was wearing the same clothes she'd worn to church. Michael, she whispered, like she was afraid speaking too loud would break the spell. Hi, Mom, I croaked. My throat felt like sandpaper from the ventilator tube. She burst into tears and grabbed my hand, holding it so tight I thought she might break my fingers. Don't you ever do that to me again? She sobbed. Do you hear me? Never again. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. But I had to. Sarah, ... Sarah's fine. Everyone's fine, except ... single quotes he trailed off. Ryan, I said, the shooter, he's dead. How did you know his name? I almost told her then. Almost told her everything. But something held me back. A feeling that it wasn't time yet. That I needed to process what I'd seen before I could share it. I heard someone say it. I lied. Over the next few days, the story exploded. National news picked it up. Teen hero saves church from mass shooter. Reporters camped outside the hospital. Everyone wanted to interview me to hear my story, but I wasn't ready. Not yet. The facts, as the media reported them, were these. Ryan Morrison, 22, had entered Grace Fellowship Church with a semi-automatic rifle and 2 handguns. He'd fired 1 warning shot into the ceiling before being tackled by 17-year-old Michael Carter, who was shot 3 times in the process. Ryan then took his own life. Total casualties. 2 dead Ryan and, technically, me. Though I came back, 3 injured me and 2 people who were hurt in the panic. What the media didn't report, couldn't report, were the spiritual reality. They didn't report that 8 of the 12 children in the kids section, including Sarah, independently told their parents they saw a man in white standing between them and the shooter, a man who wasn't on any of the security footage. They didn't report that Mrs. Henderson, who'd been sitting in front of us. Swore she heard singing during the shooting, a chorus of voices singing Amazing Grace, even though no one was singing. They didn't report that the church's security camera, which should have captured everything, mysteriously stopped working at 10:54 a.m. and started again at 11:02 a.m., exactly the window when everything happened. They didn't report Ryan's journal found in his apartment. Pages and pages of rage, of plans, of darkness, but the last entry written that morning that said, "Something else is driving now. I can't stop it anymore. God help me. Someone please stop me." I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. The gunshot wounds healed faster than they should have. Dr. Martinez called it remarkable. The nurses called it miraculous. I knew what it really was. The touch of nail-scarred hands still working in my body. During those 2 weeks, I had a lot of visitors. My basketball team came by. Awkward in that way teenage boys are around hospitals and feelings. Emma came every day after school, holding my hand, not needing to talk, just being there. Pastor David came, still processing his own trauma, asking me why I did it. "I don't know," I told him. "I just couldn't let him hurt those kids. Greater love has no one than this," he quoted. That someone laid down his life for his friends. "I didn't die, though," I said. "Didn't you?" he asked, and something in his eyes told me he knew more than he was saying. My family was different after that. Dad, my tough-as-nails former Marine father, couldn't go 5 minutes without touching me a hand on my shoulder, ruffling my hair, random hugs that he tried to play off as casual but weren't. Mom barely left my side. She took a leave of absence from the hospital where she worked to take care of me at home. And Sarah, ... Sarah was the biggest change. My little sister, who had been entering that sarcastic preteen phase where everything I did was stupid or annoying, suddenly couldn't get enough of being near me. She'd come into my room at night and just sit on the floor by my bed, doing her homework or scrolling through her phone. Sometimes I'd wake up and find her asleep there, curled up with a blanket like she was standing guard. "I thought you died," she told me one night, about a week after I got home. "I saw you fall, and there was so much blood, and I thought I'd never get to tell you that you're actually a pretty cool brother. Just pretty cool," I teased, trying to lighten the mood. "Don't push it," she said, but she was crying. "I love you, Michael. I know I don't say it, but I do. I love you too, kiddo." The church reopened 3 weeks after the shooting. They'd had to replace the carpet where the blood had soaked through. They'd had to patch the ceiling where Ryan's warning shot had hit, but otherwise, it looked the same. Felt different, though, heavier and lighter at the same time, if that makes sense. Like a place that had seen both the worst and best of humanity in the span of 7 minutes. That first Sunday back, the place was packed, standing room only. People who hadn't been to church in years showed up. People from other churches came to support us. Media was there too, though Pastor David had asked him to stay outside. I wasn't supposed to be there. Doctor's orders were to rest for at least another week, but I had to face that space again. Mom and Dad tried to talk me out of it, but when they saw I was going with or without him, they gave in. Walking into that church, man, it was hard. Harder than I expected. My body started shaking the moment we got to the parking lot. By the time we reached the doors, those same doors Ryan had burst through, I was having a full-on panic attack. Couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't move. "We can leave," Mom said. "We don't have to do this." But we did. I did, because if I didn't walk through those doors, fear would win. And I'd seen what fear was doing to God's people. So I walked in, step by step, past the spot where Ryan had stood, past the place where I'd fallen, to our usual pew. 5th row, left side, right on the aisle. The service was emotional. People cried. People hugged. Pastor David preached about resurrection, about how God brings life from death, hope from tragedy. He talked about my choice to run toward danger instead of away from it. He called me a hero. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a scared kid who'd been given a glimpse behind the curtain of reality and didn't know what to do with what he'd seen. After the service, an older woman I didn't recognize came up to me. She was probably in her 70s, wearing a simple blue dress with eyes that seemed to see right through me. "You saw him, didn't you?" she said quietly, so only I could hear. "What?" "I was startled when you were gone. You saw him, Jesus. I can see it in your eyes. They're different now. You have eternity in them." I didn't know what to say. How did she know? "I died once too," she said. 30 years ago. Heart attack. Was gone for 4 minutes. I saw him too. He sent me back with a message, just like he sent you back. "Have you told anyone yet?" "No," I admitted. "I don't know how. They'll think I'm crazy." "Some will," she agreed. "But some won't. And the ones who won't, they're the ones who need to hear it. Don't wait too long, young man. The world needs to know that death isn't the end, that he's real, that love is stronger than fear." She patted my hand and walked away. I never saw her again. Sometimes I wonder if she was even real or if she was something else, an angel maybe, sent to push me toward my purpose. For 6 months after the shooting, I kept quiet about what I'd really experienced. I went to therapy, which helped with the PTSD, but couldn't touch the deeper reality of what I'd witnessed. I went back to school, graduated, even got a basketball scholarship to a small college in Austin. I tried to be normal, to pretend that I hadn't died and met Jesus and seen the reality behind our reality. But it ate at me every day, carrying this truth and not sharing it. Every time I saw someone struggling with faith, with fear, with anger, I wanted to tell them what I knew, but I was scared. Scared of being labeled crazy, scared of being dismissed, scared of becoming one of those people everyone avoids because they claim to have had some mystical experience. The turning point came in May, 6 months after the shooting. There was another church shooting, this time in Arkansas. 11 dead, including 4 children. The shooter was 19 years old. In his manifesto, posted online, he wrote about feeling empty, about something dark driving him, about not being able to stop, even though part of him wanted to, just like Ryan. I watched the news coverage from my dorm room. I'd started college early, taking summer classes to get ahead. I saw the families crying, the empty pews, the fear spreading like a virus. Churches across the country were installing metal detectors, hiring armed security. Some were closing altogether. Fear was winning, just like Jesus had shown me it would. That night, I called my mom. I need to tell you something, I said, about what happened when I died. What really happened? I told her everything. The floating above my body, meeting Jesus, seeing Ryan's soul, the message I was given. I expected her to worry I'd had some kind of psychotic break, to insist on more therapy, to rationalize it away. Instead, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I knew. Somehow, I knew you'd experienced something. You came back different, Michael. Not just traumatized, transformed. When do you want to tell the world? I don't know. How do you even do that? Stand up and say, hey everyone, I died and met Jesus and he gave me a message for humanity. They'll think I'm insane. Some will, she said, echoing the old woman from church. But honey, what if even one person needs to hear it? What if one person is standing on the edge between light and darkness, and your story tips them toward the light? Isn't that worth being called crazy? She was right, of course. Moms usually are. I started small, told my youth group back home when I was visiting one weekend. Just 15 kids, people who knew me, who knew I wasn't the type to make stuff up. The reaction was mixed. Some were fascinated, asking a million questions. Some were skeptical, but listening. One girl, Melissa, started crying. My brother killed himself last year, she said. I've been so scared that he's in hell, that he's suffering forever because of one moment of despair. But what you're saying about that last moment, about God catching everyone who reaches ... I can't promise your brother is in heaven, I told her carefully. I don't know what was in his heart in that final moment. But I can promise that if he reached out, even the tiniest bit, Jesus caught him. That's what he told me. He catches everyone who reaches. Word spread. Parents started asking me to talk to their kids. Pastor David invited me to share my story with the whole congregation. The local news picked it up. Then, Regional, then National again. But this time not as teen hero, but as teen claims he met Jesus during near-death experience. The reactions were exactly what you'd expect. Many Christians embraced it, saying it confirmed their faith. Skeptics tore it apart, explaining it away as hallucinations caused by a dying brain. Psychologists analyzed it as a coping mechanism for trauma. Internet trolls had a field day. But in between all that noise, there were the messages that mattered. Emails from people saying my story had stopped them from suicide. Letters from parents whose kids had been drifting toward darkness but heard my story and chose differently. Churches that had closed out of fear reopening their doors. One message stands out. It was from Jennifer Ryan's ex-girlfriend, the one whose leaving had triggered his final descent into darkness. I blamed myself, she wrote. Every day since the shooting, I blamed myself. If I had stayed with him, if I had loved him better, if I hadn't met someone else at church, But hearing your story, hearing that he reached out at the end, that Jesus caught him, that he's in a place of healing, I can finally breathe again. I can finally forgive myself. Thank you for having the courage to share this. It's been almost a year now since the shooting. I'm 18, finishing my freshman year of college. I'm studying psychology and theology, trying to understand both the human and divine aspects of what I experienced. I still play basketball, though my game is different now. Less aggressive, more team. Funny how dying changes your priority. Emma and I are officially together now. She was one of the first people to believe my story completely. No questions asked. I saw your body, Michael, she said. You were gone. Your eyes were empty, and then you weren't. That's miracle enough for me, even without the rest. My family's closer than ever. Dad actually goes to therapy now, dealing with his own trauma from almost losing me. He's softer, more open. He hugged me yesterday just because it was Tuesday. Mom has become something of a prayer warrior, organizing prayer groups for families affected by violence. And Sarah wants to be a trauma counselor, specifically for child survivors of violence. She says if I could face bullets for her, she can face other people's pain for them. The nightmare still comes sometimes. I'll wake up at 2 a.m. feeling the bullets hit, tasting blood in my mouth. PTSD is real, and meeting Jesus doesn't magically cure it. I still jump at sudden loud noises. I still can't sit with my back to doors. I still see Ryan's empty eyes sometimes when I close mine. But I also carry the memory of that light, that perfect living light that knew me and loved me completely. When the darkness creeps in, I remember that the darkness is temporary, but the light is eternal. Our church has grown, not because of me, but because people chose faith over fear. We have security now. Unfortunately, that's necessary, but we also have something more important, a community that refuses to let violence have the last word. Every Sunday, we gather, we sing, we pray. We remember that where 2 or 3 are gathered in His name, He is there. And He is, I feel Him sometimes, especially during worship. Not like that overwhelming presence I experienced when I died, but a whisper, a warmth, a reminder that what I saw was real. The shooting at our church was meant to spread fear, to divide, to destroy. And for a moment, it did. But God, in His mysterious way, turned it into something else, a testimony, a calling. A reminder that death is not the end, that love is stronger than fear, that light will always overcome darkness. I still struggle with why it had to happen at all, why Ryan had to fall so far into darkness, why those children had to see such violence, why I had to die to receive this message. I don't have all the answers. Maybe we're not supposed to. Maybe faith means trusting even when we don't understand. But here's what I do know, what I know with absolute certainty because I've seen it with more than physical eyes. Death is not the end. It's Etohue Jesus Israel. Not just as a historical figure or a moral teacher, but as a living, present, active force of love in our world. We all have a choice every day between light and darkness, love and fear, forgiveness and anger. These choices matter. They shape not just our lives, but our eternities. The darkness is real, and it's looking for open doors. Unforgiveness, unresolved anger, isolation, these are invitations to darkness. But the light is stronger, always. It doesn't always look like it from our limited perspective, but I've seen the bigger picture, and light wins. Love wins every single time. Prayer has actual power. My mother's prayers had weight in heaven. They had authority. They brought me back. Never underestimate the power of a parent's prayers for their child. Everyone gets a chance to reach for God, even in their last moment. And He catches everyone who reaches. Everyone. We are not alone. Even in our darkest moments, even when we feel most isolated, there is a presence with us, waiting for us to notice, waiting for us to reach out. Community matters. The enemy feeds on isolation, but where people gather in love, in faith, in hope, darkness cannot penetrate. And finally, you have a purpose. I came back with a specific message to share, but everyone has a purpose, a reason for being here. Maybe it's to love that difficult family member. Maybe it's to forgive someone who hurt you. Maybe it's to create beauty or serve others or simply be a light in someone's darkness. But you have a purpose, and that purpose is tied to love. People sometimes ask me if I'm afraid of dying now, having been through it once. The answer is no. I'm not afraid of death itself. Death was actually peaceful, beautiful even. What I'm afraid of is not completing my purpose before I die again. I'm afraid of letting fear win. I'm afraid of people choosing darkness because they don't know the light is real and available and waiting for them. That's why I'm sharing this story. Even though some people think I'm crazy, even though it makes me vulnerable to mockery and disbelief, because somebody out there needs to hear it. Somebody is standing at the crossroads between light and dark, and maybe my story will help them choose light. If that's you, if you're reading this or hearing this and you're in that dark place, if you feel something else driving you toward violence or self-harm or despair, please reach out. Not just to me, but to God, to Jesus, to the light. It doesn't have to be a perfect prayer or a formal prayer. It can be as simple as help. He'll catch you. He catches everyone who reaches. And if you're someone who's been letting fear keep you from community, from church, from gathering with others, please reconsider. Yes, the world can be dangerous. Yes, bad things happen in places that should be safe, but isolation isn't safety. It's a different kind of danger. a spiritual danger. We need each other. We need community. We need to gather, to sing together, to pray together, to remind each other that we're not alone. The shooter, Ryan, he was alone. He'd isolated himself, cut himself off from love, from community, from light. And in that isolation, darkness took root. Don't let that happen to you or someone you love. Check on people, invite d'amis. Create belonging before the darkness offers its counterfeit. My name is Michael James Carter. I'm 18 years old now. On November 5th, 2023, I died 4 minutes and 38 seconds on the floor of Grace Fellowship Church in Millbrook, Texas. During those minutes, I saw behind the veil. I met Jesus. I saw heaven and hell. I was given a message to bring back. That message is simple but urgent. Choose light. Choose love. Choose forgiveness. Choose community. Choose faith over fear. Do it today because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. The door is open now, but it won't be open forever. And remember, you're not alone. You've never been alone. Even in your darkest moment, love itself is standing right beside you, waiting for you to notice, waiting for you to reach out. All you have to do is reach. He'll catch you. He catches everyone who reaches. I promise. I know. I've been there. Stay strong. Keep the faith. Don't let the darkness win, and don't be afraid. Perfect love casts out fear, and perfect love is real. More real than anything you can see or touch or measure. That's my story. That's my message. Take it or leave it, but I couldn't keep it inside any longer. Someone out there needed to hear this today. Maybe that someone is you. If it is, reach out. The light is waiting. Always